Hello and welcome. Thanks so much for joining us today. My name is Kara Bloomberg, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Landrum HR, which is the parent company of HRQ. For those of you that aren't familiar with HRQ, we're a professional services firm with over 20 years of serving clients across the country. Our expertise is working with executives to simplify their people equation with 3 integrated services: enterprise-wide human capital consulting, which you'll see much in action today, providing interim HR talent, and conducting searches for HR professionals. In 2019, HRQ joined forces with Landrum HR, which has been in the HR service provider space for 50 years, in order to provide end-to-end talent solutions for clients as one of our 4 divisions. Our other divisions offer PEO services, worksite management and staffing solutions, and insurance. This webinar is the first in a 3-part series on leading through disruption. The webinar topic stemmed from our participants' feedback in a COVID-19 survey. The next 2 webinars, organizational adjustments and workforce planning for the future, will be coming this month. You'll receive an email with links to attend, and we hope that you will attend those. Following in this nature, there'll be 30 minutes and try to pack in as much information as we can in a quick 30 minutes for you. I hope that many of you are already registered for our webinar on Thursday, Workforce and Economic Trends, Keeping You Ahead of the Curve. You can visit our website, hrqinc.com, to register. In this quarterly webinar, our consulting leaders will provide you with the most important information on key trends and what those implications are for your organizations. We will not only talk about where the numbers are, but how organizations can take advantage of emerging trends and prepare for potential disruptions in the talent world. Certainly timely at this time, and this webinar will particularly be helpful for CHROs, HR strategists, workforce planners, and other strategists or analysts who are concerned about human capital trends. A few items I want to point out before we get started on the webinar. Please feel free to ask us questions in the question pane in the control panel. We'll try to get to some of those live questions at the end of the presentation. We have also included a handout in the handout pane that focuses on ways to engage high potential employees. It was authored by Brian Wilkerson, who leads our consulting practice. I'd like to take a minute and introduce our presenters for today, Shannon Ragland and Jean-Luc Moreau. Shannon is a data science and human capital analytics consultant with over 15 years of experience using statistical analysis in various industries. Her expertise focuses on developing predictive models that inform organizational needs. She's helped clients achieve a variety of business objectives, ranging from creating a new revenue stream from existing data to determining data strategies to support people initiatives. Jean-Luc brings over 25 years of experience in workforce planning, organization development, CRM, process improvement, and supply chain management, and has worked with a variety of large and small public and private organizations, including Yamaha, the U.S. Postal Service, and Newmont Mining Company, and many, many others. He focuses on systems, engaging stakeholders, and delivering results early and continuously to ensure momentum and results. Shannon, I'll hand it over to you and let's get started.
Thanks so much, Kara. Today we'll talk about employee engagement, focusing on dimensions of engagement, what employees currently need from leaders, and what leaders can do in the COVID-19 environment to increase their team's engagement. Next, we'll spend some time discussing how to develop teams while working remotely and with limited resources. We'll also touch on how organizations are developing high potential employees during this time. And of course, we'll wrap up today's webinar with some time for questions and answers. To start, let's get into employee engagement. Sometimes we might take for granted what a specific concept means, so we wanted to take a moment to define employee engagement. There are a lot of definitions that exist for engagement, and what you see here is how top researchers define the term. Employee engagement is the collection of positive emotions and the sense of well-meaning that sense of meaning that employees feel toward the work that they do. It also includes perceptions of workload manageability and hope regarding the future. As we'll see in a moment, engagement means going beyond what's expected. It's not just maintaining the status quo or putting in extra time doing the same tasks. It involves thinking and behaving in ways that promote positive relationships at work and organizational change and growth. What you see here is the first piece of a visualization that synthesizes a huge body of scientific research on employee engagement. We'll be filling in the rest of the slide over the next couple minutes. So on the left here, we have antecedents or factors that influence engagement. Some key ones include environmental factors. These are workplace conditions like the organizational culture that exists at a company, the connection that people feel with others and that sense of belonging that they have at work, as well as the extent to which development is encouraged by the company and that they promote career growth. Work attributes also are a factor that influence engagement. People like to work on tasks that have variety, so not just doing the same thing constantly. So variety is important. Also being challenged, but at a level that seems manageable, and having autonomy at work. We also have traits and disposition factors that impact engagement. The extent to which somebody is curious just by nature, their conscientiousness, and the personality type that values work for the sake of work. Moving on, you'll see another green box in a moment, but these green boxes reflect engagement itself. State engagement offers a snapshot of an employee's current attitudes or their feelings related to the work that they do and their organization. These are typically aspects of engagement that companies focus on when they conduct surveys. So satisfaction is the degree to which we're content with our job. Commitment reflects an individual's attachment to an organization and their obligation to stay. Involvement is the positive sense of core aspects of ourself in our job and kind of that extent to which we're immersed in the work that we're doing. And then empowerment reflects the extent to which we can direct our career and we have the ability to make decisions at work. In addition to feelings and attitudes, engagement can also be observed through an employee's actual behavior. And we're seeing a trend of companies trying to measure actual behavior that relates to engagement in addition to what we just talked about with state engagement. It can be a little complex, but it's really neat work that's being done. We have several behaviors that employees who are engaged tend to enact. One is citizenship behavior. These are behaviors that likely are not part of someone's job description, but they support or enhance the social environment and the climate of the organization. And this in turn facilitates the accomplishment of tasks. So different behaviors that show support for others, organizational support, and just doing something extra. Personal initiative has three different facets, which are self-starting, being proactive, and showing persistence in the work that we do. Role expansion focuses on performing tasks that are outside of our responsibility and taking on new things, so kind of adding to our responsibility. And then adaptiveness being the positive behaviors that we display in response to both job and organizational challenges as well as opportunities. And then finally, to complete this visualization, we have just some of the many outcomes that are associated with engagement. So better retention, less turnover, higher productivity and effectiveness, and higher profits. We'll talk in a second about how leaders can powerfully shape many of these dimensions and offer some tips for how to do so. Right now, though, we would like to hear a little bit from you. So to start, we will post a poll question for you. And we would like for you to let us know which dimensions of engagement you feel you have the most influence over. So you should now see a poll question. Please take a moment to select your favorite option. Creating a sense of connection, of course, reflects that you prioritize maintaining positive relationships at work. Encouraging development, this is where we let employees know that we care about their growth and we support training and career progress. Shaping the nature of employees' work reflects making sure that employees are challenged and they get to work on new things. And then empowering employees is conveying trust or promoting autonomy and demonstrating confidence in employees' decision-making abilities. We'll give you another couple seconds to pick your favorite answer, about 10 seconds. All right, I'll post the results in just a couple seconds. All right, so it looks like most people felt that they could create a sense of connection at this time. So about 45% of the attendees here today mentioned creating that sense of connection as being something that they're most able to influence at this time, followed by empowering employees at 32%, encouraging development, and shaping the nature of employees' work. So here we have the results that you can glance at for a moment. Thank you for participating. So now we'll offer some suggestions to increase engagement. Before we do that though, it's important to touch on what employees need during this time. Work and engagement can be especially tough at a time like the one we're currently facing. Colleagues might be furloughed, others might have been let go. The list of employee needs that you see is based on some great research that Gallup has conducted. So first, employees want to know that leaders are trustworthy. They want to make sure that leaders have a plan for action, that they're making decisions that benefit the welfare of employees and the organization. Regular communication to keep employees informed is critical at this time. Next, we have compassion. Understanding and concern for employees' well-being during this time and regularly communicating that concern helps to reduce worry and increase confidence in leadership. This next one, stability, focuses on feeling supported to do one's job even during times of crisis. So this isn't about communicating job stability, which of course can be quite risky, but more just making sure that employees are still able to do their jobs during times of crisis. Next, we have hope. This is helping employees to envision a positive outcome, so emphasizing new opportunities for growth and process improvement, and also promoting an optimistic mindset. And finally, we have calm. This is composure, basically, a trait that most successful CEOs have in common. It's the ability to control one's own emotions and influence those of other people, so a facet of emotional intelligence. Now more than ever, calm is important. When I teach conflict management courses, I give the tip to talk like a pilot, meaning when you think about being on a flight, they get on the intercom system and very calmly say, I'm about to turn on the fasten seatbelt sign. We might experience a couple bumps up here. They don't have a raised voice or convey extreme concern because that might erupt into chaos in the cabin. So by their staying calm, it helps everyone on board stay calm, which is a great tip for emotionally charged times. So to summarize this slide, consistent communication is critical. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the behaviors now that can increase employee engagement. First is safety and health. It's tough to be engaged and productive if you're scared for your health and safety and that of loved ones. The Vice President of Global Product Strategy and Experience at American Express recently said in an interview that companies have a moral and legal obligation to look after employees, whether it's mitigating risk or looking after their general health and well-being. And we thought this was a great quote to sum up how important employee health and safety is at this time. Our next suggestion is to be flexible. Employees have highly diverse needs and family configurations, which is not something new because of coronavirus. With schools and childcare centers closed and some families also taking on parental care, the current situation is especially tough on those in caregiver roles. If possible, now is a great time to focus more on results and the output produced by employees than following a set schedule. The TV series The Office did a great job conveying that attendance does not necessarily equal productivity. So work with your HR department to determine appropriate options for your employees. If flexibility policies were not part of your organization before COVID-19, you might consider ways to implement flexibility going forward, as it is a key driver of engagement. The COVID-19 situation will shape employee expectations, and there's also a huge body of research connecting flexibility with so many different benefits for organizations. Moving on to our next point is encouraging boundaries. Employees who are new to working from home used to have their commute to create a boundary between work and personal life. These boundaries might be a bit blurred now, so it's important to set boundaries to help everyone on the team avoid burnout. Our next point is to be transparent. Typically, people do not like uncertainty. Open, leader-driven communication, answering employee questions, and reporting on the health of the company are much appreciated at this time. Next, we encourage checking in often. Connection is an extremely important factor in promoting engagement at any time. Having good relationships at work and feeling like part of the team is key. This is especially important and might require more deliberate effort when the team is dispersed. Scheduling regular one-on-one meetings, having team virtual happy hour get-togethers, and the like can go a long way. And the next point, expanding on our last one, is to use technology to your advantage. So having video during meetings can help to promote connection, using technology tools and collaboration platforms like Microsoft Teams or Slack to share water cooler conversations still, and to have some fun and humor infused in work during this stressful time can really go a long way. So now that I've talked a bit about engagement, I'll turn things over to Jean-Luc so he can talk a bit about employee development.
Thank you, Shannon. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to all our listeners. Employee development is defined as a process where the employee, with the support of his or her employer, undergoes various training programs to enhance his or her skills and acquire new knowledge and skills. Organizations typically spend 11% of their budgets on training, and during an emergency, it's common for companies to scale it back and scale back the development efforts. When cost-cutting becomes the new normal, training and development are likely added to the list of things to downside. But that, from 2020 hindsight, that's a mistake. The impact of the right employee development process is massive. Gallup finds that organizations that have made a strategic investment in employee development report an 11% greater profitability and are twice as likely to retain their employees. So just from a bottom line point of view, there's a big emphasis on development, which is not often seen when the crisis happens, but is still there. If we're looking at developing employees during COVID-19, and Shannon, if you can Thank you. What makes it different from normal times? Well, during COVID-19, as Shannon has mentioned around her engagement, there's a lot of different dynamics taking place. People have various levels of experiences and stress, from having less to do, now being at home watching more TV, or having much more to do. Now there's additional things, care for additional people, big or small people, enjoying not having to commute or finding themselves alone, uncertain and fearful. So the first thing really when we're talking about development is understanding where people are. There is not a broad brushstroke of what it should be done. Understanding where people are is the first priority when talking about development with an employee, to gauge if it's going to provide support now and for their career, or adding more stress and fear, and the fear of, if I don't do this development, I'm going to be seen as a non-contributor. So it's really important in those times to create stability and talking about the development in a way that it's really for your growth, and it's not a matter of looking at your performance right now. But we want growth. So other things that the COVID-19 does, what did the pandemic brought us? It brought us physical distancing. With the physical distancing has come a rearrangement of our work environment. So we shifted from how we interact or collaborate, and it is asking us of better skills in managing video conferences, Zoom meetings, large or small group discussions, everything remotely. So those are facilitation skills. And having sat on different conferences, you can see that the broad variations of spectrum in skills that people have in that. And that's an area of learning, immediate, practical right now. Physical distancing has made our home our work location also. It's simple for some people, as Shannon mentioned, who were used to it, not so much for others who it's new, and they need to create their own space, find a work-life balance, and learn how to be a fifth grader teacher and create a homeschool, plus care for some other people within the house. So work-life balance, understanding time management, those are skills that are extremely important in this time for an employee productivity, and some may need that focus. Another dimension that the pandemic brought is uncertainty and crisis. As we said, in times of crisis, there's a natural reaction to focus on the essential activities, focusing on what keeps us alive and on the now. The body does that when the body is sick, but so do organizations. They tend to go inwards. Well, as a result, development goes down, but organizations need to always keep thinking ahead at any time, because we have to ensure the continuous supply of skills, maintain or increase the capability and capacity of our employees. So this is, it has always been and doesn't change and doesn't go away even if there's a crisis. And last point on the importance of what changed with COVID-19 is looking at, there's a psychological aspect of development. Development during COVID-19 allows a way of engaging with an employee. During shaky and unpredictable time, development has an important mental health factor. Why that? It's because it creates a forward direction, something, and it could be a little step or a big step to achieve, something that moves you out of this particular moment, moving you 5 minutes ahead, 10 minutes ahead, or being able to see 1 month ahead. I'll be able to accomplish that while being able to do that. Something that you can look forward to. And that's where it's part from when I was talking about the development of talking with an employee. Is this development going to add stress to your schedule or allow you, giving you a relief or something to look forward to? But at the same time, from an employer point of view, I have to think about, I need progression, I need growth also mixed in that. So some suggestions around how to do that. There's collaborate on a personal development plan. A personal development plan is a great way to start and work with an employee to be able to understand where they are, what they need, and you can use doing SMART goals. SMART goal having specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-based, and it could be just about time management or work-life balance, something a little bit pushing a step. So we're looking at career goals and different skills. Encouraging formal mentoring. Depending on workload, have employees help with work they may not typically do or shadow each other. This helps people to learn by doing and broaden their generalist skill and allows a better connection with other people, which is incredibly important at this time. Plus, if you're thinking of mentoring collaboration, it may allow someone who doesn't have much time otherwise to do some things, because now all the other things they have to deal with, to do some work during their actual working time, to be able to be with someone and practice and learn. Establish a learner network. Per Gallup, a mix of online and joint training, instructor-led or facilitated, is the most effective way of learning. The cohort system is an example of that type of development. And so now you can develop that within your own organizations. As a network, learners are all in it together. We are all learning, and we can provide opportunity for feedback between each other as peers. When you think about training, and I've mentioned that a little bit before, but don't just think about technical skills, but think behavioral skills, communication, conflict resolution, work-life balance, time management, stress management. Those are all essential in this particular moment in time. And also there's an ample resources of training that can be online, asynchronous training, people that can look at those trainings whenever they have time, and being able to have, not having to spend a lot of money. And there are some that are available also via libraries. And Shannon, if you could flip to the next slide. LinkedIn Learning, edX.org. Also, you have the Coursera and a bunch of free seminars and YouTube videos that are happening. And I'll move, just for the time being, I'll move to the hypos. High potentials. Developing high potentials. What is special in this environment of COVID? COVID-19 has increased the complexity in the environment in which we are working. What does complex environment means? It means like things are evolving as you are trying to make sense of them. So your basis of making decisions evolves as you're making a decision. And the key element in complex systems is to be able to, as you're making decisions, make sense of the environment, taking actions, and then getting a quick feedback on whether what you're doing is working or not, so you can increase it or dampen it. And this is the domain of decisions that you see in battlefields. And what matters the most in those times is having as many people engaged and practice making sense of what is going on, making decisions and getting feedback. And diversity of input and perception is key. This is extremely important in complex system, in complex environment. And this is the best moment to make your high potential part of your response. Many organizations are using the crisis to provide leadership opportunities for high potentials. And they are having them lead task force or response teams, appointing them as peer leaders and involving them in leadership team meetings related to the crisis, among a host of other strategies. This does not only benefits the high potential in their growth, but it provides an immense valuable support and voices and new approaches to the organization to be able to deal with the pandemic. Another aspect is like, due to the type of decisions required to be made, the current situation provides great mentoring opportunities. Think of it, it's like you have CEOs, people that are thrown into a situations where they have to make decisions and provide the way they're thinking, they're looking at things. This is a great training opportunity for high potential to be mixed within those people and understand how they process information, how they look at crisis, how they look at different pieces of information, and at the same time see the anxieties that they may have and the wrestling that they have with a different decision. So it's an extremely valuable piece for putting them in the mix with that. And as the last point is, like, some organizations are also using the crisis to provide specific development opportunities for high potentials. And it would be allowing them to move to different departments within the organization. So mentoring, shadowing, but really moving them and placing them with other people as support, but also as broaden their skills and as a generalist to really have a better understanding of the whole organization. And Brian Wilkerson has written a handbook around the high potentials that would be available.
Great, Jean-Luc and Shannon, thank you so much. We have quickly gotten to the end of our 30 minutes. We've got a number of questions and comments in, and we will be in touch. We appreciate your questions and your comments throughout the webinar. Shannon, one just final question, if I can ask, that it seems to be a common theme is, can you talk a little bit about employee engagement trends that leaders should be aware of today?
Yeah, certainly. A couple of trends that we see when it comes to employee engagement. One, culture is more important than ever. Really, this is a key driver of engagement. It's one of the key attributes that brings employees to a company. They want to know what the culture is like and what it'll feel like to work there. So making sure to collect data and monitor the health of the culture and promoting a positive culture is absolutely critical. Another trend we're seeing is that non-monetary incentives are becoming really important to employees. So things like flexibility and experience over salary or raises sometimes matter even more to people. And also we're seeing a trend that employees are wanting to know that companies are looking out for their well-being as well as that of their community. So corporate social responsibility is really important.
That's great. Well, appreciate both of you and your presentations today. A reminder that a recording of this webinar will be available and sent out to everyone that registered shortly. Please don't forget to visit our website, landrumhr.com and hrqinc.com, to find out more about our upcoming events. On behalf of Landrum HR, HRQ, and our presenters, thanks so much for joining us today.